Dynamite Headdy is another cult classic game that I discovered recently, and it left a really great impression on me. I didn't know it back in the day because I had a Super Nintendo at the time, and this game was released exclusively for the SEGA Genesis. In fact, it's a game that raises the question, why does almost nobody know this gem? And above all, why was I completely unaware of its existence? Especially given how well it represents its own theme. As I told you before, this game was exclusive to Sega consoles back in its day, created by Treasure, the same company that brought us gems like Gunstar Heroes and Ikaruga. Released in '94, it's a platformer where we take control of Headdy, the star puppet who works at a theater. His main characteristic is that his head floats. And yes, I thought the exact same thing. Raymond is very similar to this character, so much so that if you fuse Headdy and Plock, you get something close to Ubisoft's character. In fact, his way of defending himself is by throwing his head at enemies. But he doesn't do it in just one direction. He can launch it in any direction, as long as we press that way with the control pad. It also allows him to hang from Hangman, a circle that lets him reach unreachable platforms with a simple jump, which gives the game different routes and some hidden items. The game perfectly exemplifies its theatrical theme, with different styles of representation, from changing scenery with rectangles, to switching to backstage levels where we can see stagehands, scaffolding, etc., in addition to having a wide color palette and graphics that create a 3D sensation. Everything begins when Headdy arrives in North Town, which is under the dominion of Dark Demon. This puppet decides that the inhabitants of the city where they live must become minions of the tyrant, and those who are of no use to him are rejected to be incinerated, which is Headdy's fate. But he manages to escape and sets out to defeat the dictator of his world in order to restore peace, killing soldiers that block his path and defeating bosses who are the elite guards preventing his progress. Yes, the story is merely an excuse to create a context, but it's still good that it has one, to establish a goal and identify who the villain is. During the game, we have a spotlight that serves as our life indicator, located in the upper left corner of the screen. The more hits we take, the more this spotlight starts to fade. Very few things can kill us in one hit, but they do exist, such as being crushed by an object or an enormous boss. But spikes and pits will only make us bounce back and take a little bit of life away. Good on them. A very strong and very fun point is the use of abilities. When activated, they change Headdy's head and give variety to the gameplay. We'll have the option to choose the one we like the most. To do this, we have to hit head case, a little circle that has a TV and shows us various powers. When we hit it, it gives us one, and we can use it for a limited period of time. We have a very wide arsenal of heads, a total of 18 heads with different powers, counting the default one. Bomb head. It's a one-use head. When used, our hero drops his head to the ground like a bomb, which explodes after a certain time, killing all enemies on screen and dealing heavy damage to sub-bosses and bosses. If we are hit while we have it next to our body, we die instantly. Empty head turns Headdy into an invisible being with a hollow head, and we'll only see the transparent silhouette of our protagonist. Upon picking it up, we'll be almost invulnerable for a few seconds with some exceptions, but our attacks will still damage enemies. Tri-head allows us to launch 3 heads when we attack instead of 1. They are thrown in 3 directions, 1 in a straight line and 2 branching off diagonally, covering a wider attack range. Very useful for flying enemies or those walking crouched. Vacuum head turns Headdy's head into a vacuum cleaner that can suck up all enemies and some unreachable objects, as long as they are visible on screen. Very useful if we're surrounded, but useless against bosses since we can't attack with it. Warhead transforms into a metal ball that shoots stars in all directions, which can be thrown to deal range damage. Very good against bosses. I don't know if it does slightly more damage than just throwing the head normally, but at least it gives me the feeling that it does. Hammerhead gives us a hammer that deals greater damage to enemies and bosses when thrown at them, allows us to push obstacles farther, and gives us the ability to break some blocks that the normal head can, usually indicated by a hammer icon. Pinhead doesn't change our appearance, but reduces our size, allowing us to slip through small holes like a mouse, adding variety to the different routes to take, and making it very difficult for enemies to hit us due to our tiny size. The graphics when we're small are also very detailed. This is one of my favorite parts of the game. Spike head. A spiked head that allows us to scale walls and ceilings by throwing our head at them. Like the previous one, it's very useful for dodging attacks, discovering secrets, and finding alternate routes. Barrier head also doesn't change our appearance, but provides us with a ring of energy balls that, when colliding with enemies, take them down. With this, we can attack with our head, dealing greater damage, and it protects us from some enemies attacking from any direction, though they can still hurt us if they touch us. Dash head increases our speed. The attack range of the head increases, covering almost the entire screen, and allows us to jump higher, but it's not very useful, especially in scenes with many pits, because we'll almost certainly fall into them and take damage. Pig head changes us to a pig's head, and we throw stars from our nose that home in on enemies, as weird as it sounds. Useful when enemies are in different positions and hard to hit. Snooze head might seem useless, but when we pick it up, it will fully restore our character's health, at the cost of Headdy falling asleep and becoming vulnerable to enemy attacks. Featherhead. Like the next two, it allows us to fly, but it's only accessible in one level, where the game briefly turns from a platformer into a shoot-'em-up. With this head, we throw chickens from our beak that drop like bombs. Airhead turns us into an airplane, shooting in 3 different directions simultaneously, and also allows us to shoot to the right and left. Ticker head. With this head, we can stop time and freeze enemies, allowing us to deal the maximum possible damage for a limited time. When the effect ends, all that damage is transferred to the enemies, but if we touch them, they can still hurt us. Rocket head, the most useful of the 3, shoots a laser in one direction, from left to right, but can be fired continuously. It provides a greater damage range and has very good attack distance. The only drawback is that it only shoots to the right, so you'll be at the mercy of enemies attacking from the left side of the screen. Liberty head. When we grab it, Headdy will dress up as the Statue of Liberty, which will then transport us to a bonus round where we have to score a certain number of basketballs. Upon completing it, it will give us a number, honestly almost worthless, but I'll tell you why later. Note it down because it's unique per playthrough. And the biggest piece of garbage in video games, heavy head. This will make you drag yourself on the floor begging for its effect to end. Because you become very slow, you can attack, and enemies will kill you very easily. It's a trap head that becomes extremely frustrating to grab by mistake, especially with the final boss. I curse you, you dirty head, I curse you. The enemies are puppets manipulated by Dark Demon. Although some are repeated, they do feel unique, like small people, tanks, and a cat that constantly appears to make our lives miserable, named Trouble Bruin, Heady's nemesis and an elite guardian of Dark Demon, who holds a jealous grudge against the protagonist for being a more successful puppet. He's a cat head capable of adapting to multiple bodies, and if that isn't strange enough, we can enter the weird world with a boss named Babyface. As its name indicates, it's a giant baby head that, after taking enough damage, changes into a young man. And I thought some 31 Minutos puppets were scary. Then I run into this. It will fuel my nightmares for quite a while. It's bizarre, but not just bizarre, very much in a Japanese style. Although, in the end, how can you not laugh at its final phase as a little old man who dies of old age? Very similar to what happens to the end in Metal Gear Solid 3, whom you can kill by letting a few days pass. The bosses have a weak point that you must constantly hit, but don't worry because the game tells you where to hit them, so don't go making things up. We'll have some items we can grab, like a banana that heals our life, a little doll of yourself that give an extra life, and some 500 numbers that give 500 points, which serve no purpose other than increasing your score, in case you want to compete with someone else. There are also hidden points that, if obtained, give a higher score at the end of the level. They usually consist of hitting a certain unrelated object, but picking them up doesn't change the ending. I would have liked them to change the ending a bit to force you to get them, but that wasn't the case. Almost all the levels and some boss names are formed by wordplay referencing popular movies, such as Spiderella or Star Wars. This applies to the American and European versions, which doesn't happen in the Japanese one. There are many regional changes, such as the fact that the Japanese version is much easier than the others, since enemies have double the health in Western regions. And in the Japanese one, you start with some continues. I never even ran into a continue myself, which makes me think they don't exist, though I didn't look for them thoroughly. They also have some aesthetic changes, like certain bosses and enemy colors, pretty standard for a 90s game with variations and censorship. The game was released for the SEGA Genesis and had some adaptations for other SEGA consoles, like the Game Gear and the SEGA Master System, the latter only seeing the light of day in Brazil. Nowadays, it can be found on the Nintendo Virtual Console. You know, that thing where Nintendo and SEGA are now friendly companies. So if you're interested in getting a copy, you can do so through that means or look for its physical format. There's a reward for getting the 4 numbers from the bonus stages. Upon finishing the game, it allows you to enter them into a door and will go in to fight the theater owner who attacks you with bills. Well, if he has some spare, send them to me. I'll give them a nice use and won't throw them at people. In the Japanese version, these are replaced by SEGA executives. Maybe they wanted to say something to Nintendo, like they could bury them in money. Perhaps that's why SEGA went bankrupt. In fact, the game is packed with messages about SEGA, Treasure, and Dynamite Headdy. If I were paid for each one that appears in the game, I'd be rich, nothing subtle on their part. Now pay me for the advertising. The game has very good visual effects, in addition to having digitalized voices, something very rare for the time, which shows that effort to deliver a product above average. The music is good. In fact, games like this remove the stereotypical flag that Genesis games have. That flag of having bad soundtracks that the console reproduces poorly. I love them, and they made me enjoy the game much more. It's a good game that, unfortunately, is very little known and went by without much glory, despite being a great representative of its era. It doesn't pale in comparison to games like Mario and Sonic. It has many points in its favor, such as the graphics, its humor, and its gameplay. In fact, if it doesn't make you laugh at some point, you have no soul. If you haven't played it, I hope you can give it a chance someday. It will surprise you greatly. I hope you liked the video. If so, give it a like. If you know someone who might like it, share it on your social networks, and don't forget to subscribe if you like the channel. If you have any questions, suggestions, or just want to comment on something, don't hesitate to do so in the comments box. Also, if you're a big fan of this channel, hit the notification bell to be among the first to see the videos. Thank you very much for watching this video. See you later.